Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Super duper glad you're here. And maybe a little bit late, but not by my standards, by the Lego lawyer standards. I think we're basically on time. Interesting. I'm not getting a charge indication when I'm trying to charge my phone here. There it goes. Okay. Am I on mute? Yeah. All right. If you guys can hear me, make a note or throw a comment there to make sure that I'm heard. Oh, there's Barb. Yes, Barb, I am back. Good evening. Just to show you guys how cold it is, I've had the door to the studio shut all day, and so as I opened the door, this was in here. So as I opened the door and the room started to warm up, the water started to change a little bit. And the good news is I've got my new chair built. So, sorry. So now we're in the new chair. I got a space heater on up here just to try and warm the space a little bit, but it's getting a little aggressive. All right, Barb says, let's see up close where we ended yesterday. Okay, Barb, good starting point. Okay, what we're working towards is this. Okay, now you can see here, and we've got our first sort of layer. Okay, we got a second layer right here. If I look at you, sort of see it. Now I will tell you, it's not as curved as it appears here. Okay, that part of that is the distortion of the camera, because when you lay it flat, there's no bump in the middle. All right, let's go back to where we left off yesterday. Here we go. Okay, so then I need a 3x3. Maybe. There's one right there. There you go. Now out here. Now out here. I'm not sure I know what that means. Okay. Then I need this one. And then I need this one. And I need this one. Okay. Move this keyboard out of the way. Oh, no snow here, she says. No snow here. Well, we got a little bit of all of it. We got some snow. We got some sleet. But that's the nature of the beast, I suppose. Okay, so then we're going to do... But welcome everybody. Those of you who are here on this wintry, blustery night. A lot of the churches in the area, mine included, have suspended service for tomorrow and have encouraged us to worship from home. And of course, we're off to a solid start. Already got an error in the assembly there, big dog. All right, let's undo that. Hang on. Volleyball refereeing. Okay, see, I've got some miles in as a basketball referee, so I follow you there. Made the same problem today that I made yesterday, last night. I said I wouldn't do it again. What did I do? I did it again. There we go. That's better. No, I've refereed from, of course, rec ball, basketball, little league, sort of pee wee ball, all the way up through men's college. I did a little bit of women's college, just a couple of games here and there as needed. I was certified for both men and women in the NCAA, but my particular philosophy and referee style fit the men's game better than it fit the women's game. Because if you're not an absolute basketball nerd like me, you may not realize that college men and college women have two different rule books. High school players have the same basketball rule book, but college men and college women actually have different rule books, different referee certifications. There's a different philosophy even to the game. I mean, ultimately, it's basketball. You put the brown thing through the round thing, and whoever does that the most wins. But it's a little more nuanced than that most of the time. Here it is. And then this one. And then another 3x3. There's a 2x2. Is it a 3x3? No, it's a 2x2. See? There's 2x2. And then double or both 3x2 ears. There's one. There's two. Let's see. Shota 12, 5, 6, 7. How's your car doing? I don't know. I didn't go anywhere today. It's a hoopty. It's not worth much, but it's paid for. So, fifth elephants here. Well, good evening, Casey. Hello. 50th year of officiating NCAA volleyball. That's impressive. But you've seen about every rule change there is, the good ones, the bad ones. You've been around long enough. You've seen them undo something and then turn around and say, "Do it back. We didn't like it." They've done that a little bit in basketball with the upward motion for the charge rule they tried for a year. That ended up being a dumpster fire. But, so it goes, I guess. I mean, anytime they make a major rules change, they're generally trying to accomplish something, trying to clean some component of some aspect of the game up. But also, sometimes you just got to let it happen. Now, granted, your rules package has to be written in a way that it encourages the style of play you're seeking. I mean, if you have a really tight rules package, then it can make scoring difficult. But if you have a rules package that's too loose, then you increase the chance of injury, and people don't want to pay big money for tickets to go watch their star player get hurt. You also don't want to overcomplicate the game. You don't want to put a lot of judgment in it, Black and white rule book certainly makes enforcing the rules as written easier. Every sport's going to have judgment calls, ball strikes, safe outs, things like that. But eliminating those to the extent possible would be good. And it's not even safe out or ball strike. It's more like the balk rule in baseball. Oh, you have been through rule changes like blocking the serve. I bet that was a crazy time. That was like the serve and volley era in tennis. What kind of car do I have? Not one that I'm willing to talk to you about. It's not personal. I just don't know you. one of these, and we need one of these. We actually need two of these. Yep, just like that. So then we're going to have I'm thinking this is right. Nope. I think it's wrong. Now let's try this. Nope. I'm working through something here. The directions are not super clear on this. We have a different rule book for high school, college, USA volleyball, and international. I believe that. Amy Green, good evening, Amy Green. What are you building? Good question. That. But these are much. It's much smaller than regular Lego. If you give a weather report, I missed it. I heard Edmund got 5 inches. I didn't give one. They were close. I mean, if you don't forecast bad weather or winter weather at least a lot, then it's hard to be good at it. Like in this part of the country, we're very good at forecasting and tracking tornadoes because we just get them so often. But we don't do winter. We don't do a ton of winter weather here, and that's okay. It's okay. We don't do a ton of winter weather. Okay. So this looks like this. And this whole assembly is going to go. Not like that. It's not. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Better. Let's see. Yeah. Tornado, but although if we're being honest, Tornado Alley is actually shifting. There's the evidence of the shift is actually growing stronger every season. Now, granted, sorry about that. Granted, in 2026, we've actually had our first tornadoes of the year. I mean, our tornado season was started in January. Of course, when you have a Christmas that's 80 freaking degrees, that's going to happen. Your atmosphere is going to be more conducive to lighting off storms like that. So that's pretty obvious. There's a lot of data too on why that's happening, but I'm not going to get into it here because as much as I would say reasonable minds, and I guess I'll say reasonable minds can't disagree on that. Some people do. But when people agree on things that are not backed by scientific evidence, we have a term for that. We call it cognitive dissonance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need a 1 by 5. Is this one? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm still missing the right ear 2x3. This one, right ear. Yep. So then I need looking here. Start there. Yep. The problem is, and I'll show you guys, some of this is actually a little bit tricky because there's no color variation at the moment. And the directions can be a little bit confusing. They do a decent job of identifying where it's going to come off the surface. But also, the way this build is laid out, it's a little bit harder to forecast what it's going to look like at some arbitrary point in the future. I mean, we know what the end result is, but like I'll show you guys. Like, if you look at step 21, it's hard to see. Did you hear about the car that crashed into the ticket counter in that airport in Detroit? I did not. But I'll be honest, I haven't really looked at the news much today. Between my family, my bonus family, and my wife working on her doctorate, everybody looks forward to being home. But don't get me wrong, I'm grateful to have the time with my kids that I have. But days like today, where Mama's doing a major homework lift, is not always easy. So. But all of her classes, or each of her classes, is only 8 weeks. So it's, as the character Matthew Santos says on The West Wing during the final run to the presidential election, we can hang by our thumbs for a week if we have to, or is it 3 days, whatever it is. They're in that final run trying to hit. They're flying with the sun. Can't tell if I hear somebody walking or not. No, it's whatever the precip outside falling is what I'm hearing. So now we're going to move over and work in this area. For whatever reason, today I was listening. Well, I know I shouldn't say for whatever reason. Anyway, today I was listening to a podcast while I was doing chores around the house. And for some reason, during that process, what I heard come in my head was the opening stanza from Tennessee Williams' The Glass Menagerie, where the protagonist, I couldn't remember it verbatim, but I just sort of remember the theme. Let's see here. It's really fast. It's really cool. Let's do that. I'm trying to find it here. Yeah, I just thought for whatever reason it popped in my head today. Here it is. That's not it. trying to find the exact phrase for you guys. Hang on. It's bothering me now. It's Tom, who's the lead character in the play, says he opens the play with, some give you illusion disguised as truth. I give you truth in the pleasant disguise as illusion. Which I think is just, there's something about that particular monologue. It's not even a monologue. His first real monologue is longer than that, but hi, it's so cold here. Lego is perfect. And this is Ali Ha Ha Show. Well, good evening, Ali Ha Ha Show. Okay. How far did I make it? I got these put on what I did. Right? Yep. Okay. So then I need a semicircle. I need somewhere I need to square it off 90. Where's this? There it is right there. Squared off 90. There's that. And I need a 1/3. And then I need a 2/3 ear. Nope. Nope. Wait, is that a 3? No, those are both 4s. Let's see. That's what I'm making. It's actually TG brick. And if you look, it says TG micro brick right there at the top. And so these are much smaller than Lego. I do have, just off screen here, I have a pile of Lego that needs to be built as we go, but we'll get to that. One of those, one of these, one of these, one of these. 3x3 corner. But I still need my, is that it right there? That's it right there. Okay, now we got them all. Okay, so I need to find, should be one open row. Okay, and then I need the hard 90. Right, and then I need the 3x3 corner. Yep. And then I need the 2. Is it going to be flush or it's going to be offset 1? So it'll be there. And then I need right underneath it. Thing 1 made significant progress on the Artemis heavy lift, what they call the SLS Space Launch System. Lego today, so made a lot of progress there. I'm not actually building that. I'm just supervising that build. Hang on here. One of my kids is coughing. Hang on. No, we're good. Okay, we're good. Groovy. All right, so I need an arrowhead, which is right here. Is that Snoopy from the Peanuts on the bottom right? It is. It's a Snoopy bobblehead. Yes, thing two is much better. We were able to narrow down the particular ailments that were causing whatever was going on with thing two, and we've got that well under control now. So thank you for your concern. I appreciate that. Need one of these. I need one of these. I need one. I need two of those actually. Nope, that's a one, and I need that's a one. There it is. Does that say one? It is. I need two of those. And then I need, oh, let's flip those. Good. Then I need two going the other way. So these two would be great for that. And then I need a 1x3, which hopefully stands out to me. I don't know if you guys can hear it. There's just sort of this light spring. It's not a sprinkle. It's like sleet. Still a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. People seem to think you need a lot of moisture for snow. You actually don't. If it's dry, the drier the atmosphere, the more likely you are to get snow. If it's wet, you tend to get sleet. And that's most of what we've gotten. I think we got a little bit of snow, but it was mainly sleet. These two. Those two. I need a 2x2. Right there. I need a 1x3. There it is right there. Let's see. Thank you, Amy Green, for those kind words. What type of Lego sets do you like? Well, really, I guess the correct answer would be all of them. The appropriate amount of Legos is always one more. But all kidding aside, I have a pretty. I've been doing Lego for what am I 36? I've been doing Lego for about 34 and a half years, really. I mean, there's pictures of me playing with the Lego toddler bricks, right? The Mega Blocks when I was real little. Which obviously none of you have seen me in person, or at least not to my knowledge. But in any event, if you had seen me in person, you would realize it's been a long time since I've been little because I'm about 6'7", 300 pounds. So, been a long time since I was quote little, I guess. But in any event, but I digress. You know, your question was what Lego sets do I like? Really, all of them. I have a list. I have an Amazon list that has a bunch of stuff on there that anytime anytime a viewer or a subscriber or a follower of the channel, really anytime anybody gifts me something or sends me something off the Amazon list, I will absolutely do that build live. The bigger stuff I often can't do in a single setting, just because I could sit here for hours and build, but most of you would quickly abandon the stream after about 3 hours of watching me click little plastic bricks together. I'm of the Harry Potter generation, so I'm a Harry Potter guy. Most, if not all, of my professional career has been in aviation. So anything space related, I'm in on. I'm good with whatever the language you want to use there is. Hold on, something didn't get put right. Right. Yeah, I'm missing one. I only have one arrowhead. I needed two. Anyway, I digress. So I'm of the Harry Potter generation. So anything in the Harry Potter series, I'll do. My area of expertise is aviation and aerospace. So anything aviation, aerospace themed. Lego's got some new stuff out there for Da Vinci. Like the Da Vinci's ornithopter. He wrote a major publication that he researched for several years called the Codex of the Flight of Birds. And in the Codex on the Flight of Birds, he had studied birds extensively, and um, had all kinds of drawings and what if questions and thoughts and ideas and just really, really cool stuff. And so Lego's got some new stuff. And I don't know what collection it's under. I don't know if it's under ideas or under the engineering or whatever. But anyway, I refer to it as the Da Vinci collection because they've got the ornithopter and they've got a few of his other flying machines that he had pondered. And while he did ponder a great many, he never actually built or tested any. He designed, he's most well known for the Mona Lisa, but in reality, art was a very small part of his portfolio. It was probably the least, at least to his own accord, the least significant piece of his professional portfolio was his artistry, his art, paintings and sculpting. And don't get me wrong, it's still just his art portfolio alone is significant to history, but in his own mind, that was just a small part of his CV. Fun fact, Lego started off making toys out of wood. I did not know that. I did learn something. And it's I can tell that maybe perhaps you're a Lego fan yourself because you're referring it to it correctly. In that it is not Legos plural, it is Lego. One does not play with Legos, one plays Lego. It's almost like it's a verb, if you think about it in that sense. So I need a 12 by 4. Actually, I need one 12 by 4. That's a 10, so I need one's longer. Here's a 12 by 4. And then I need a 10 by 4 and a 2 by 3. It's going to be right here. One of my New Year's resolutions, and I'm doing okay with it so far. One of my New Year's resolutions was to start reading more, good, bad, or indifferent, by virtue of the way the curriculum is set up. Law school sucks the joy out of reading. And so, even though I've been out of law school close to 10 years now, I still do not read recreationally. I used to be a prolific reader. I would read anything I give me. I mean, I read the back of the shampoo bottle if that's all I had. But and I was warned about that actually. That going in like, hey, you're going to learn a lot. Most people enjoy it, but understand like this because of the structure of law school and the rigor and the reading. You're probably not going to read for pleasure, and if you do, it will take a lot of effort to rediscover reading for pleasure. Read Harry Potter. Well, the problem is even the longest Harry Potter books I can get through in 2.5 hours. I mean, not that that's good, bad, or ugly, but I just get through the Harry Potter books so fast. I mean, it takes longer to make chili in a crock pot than it does for me to read a 700-page Harry Potter book. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need a 1 by 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, there we go. Also found that 9 years of university took the joy out of reading. I still read for pleasure, but it takes effort. Yeah. Alehaha show, based on based on one, your location where it's negative 27, and two, the fact that you refer to it as uni, I'm going to take a gamble here and say that you're not either in the U.S. or native to the U.S. Not that that's good or bad. I don't inherently care. But uni is very much either a European term or more specifically a Commonwealth term. You tend to hear that quite a bit in the Commonwealth of Nations. But I've been wrong before. Just Ollie is fine. I'm in Canada. Okay. Yeah, so technically you're a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, I think. One of my moderators who's not with us right now, Laura Waldy, excuse me, I believe is from the Great White North. Somebody can correct me on that, but I believe Laura's from the Great White North as well. Let's see, but I vacation at Oxford every couple of years. So I'm not surprised. I also watch a lot of BBC. I'm going to assume. Is it? Yeah, I'm assuming you don't mean Oxford, Mississippi, home to the University of Mississippi. Well, you might, I guess. It'd be quite odd, to be frank, but weirder things have happened. I need a 1 by 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then a 2 by 8. It's got to be one of those. No, those are actually two different sizes. I need to count it here. Oxford, UK. That's what I thought. I know I've chatted with other Canucks on your lives. How long will this live be? I don't know. I don't. On the build nights, I don't tend to come in with an agenda. I build till it's either done, or I get tired, or you all get disinterested. One of those three. 12. So this is my 12, and I need one more of these. So if we start here, it then says we're going to take this and plug it in there. And then this one's going to go here. And there. And then we're just going to take the whites and run them to the end here. That plate's bent just a little bit. Don't love that connection. Do you ever find yourself saving a particular meaningful Lego set? I bought myself the grand piano a few months ago, but I'm a bit scared to start it. It's by far the biggest set I will ever own. I don't necessarily find myself saving a particularly meaningful Lego set in the box. Once they are assembled, I don't tear them down and play with them again. I build them and leave them assembled. The grand piano is actually on my Amazon list, oddly enough. That's one I would love to do. Hold on just a second, guys. I got a coughing kid. Stand by. I'll be right back. My apologies for that. But we're back. Let's see. You should teach because you will be good at it. Well, I actually do. That's actually what I do for a living. I've taught at the collegiate level, and I've taught at, right now I teach at the high school level, so I've actually done both. Yeah, we're here. Okay. So now I need one of these. Did that. So now we're here. I need one of these, one of these, one of these. One of these. Get over here. And one of these. Let's see. We're trying really hard to keep everybody in the house healthy, but in the middle of cold and flu season, you guys know how that goes. So far, we've been super, I don't even want to say it. Because inevitably, I'm going to say something and the world's going to come apart. You guys know how that works too. Because Murphy's Law doesn't discriminate. Okay, so then I need another arrowhead. Where's my arrowhead? Here's an arrowhead. I need one of those, and I need one of these, and I need one of these, and I need the opposite of that. This one. Yes, I need this one. So I have this, that, this, and then I need the 2x4 ear. Is this it? Yeah, that's it. Groovy. It's that law that states everything that can go, that can go wrong will. Yes, exactly. Yeah, Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So let's see. We're good there. Oh, I see. I see my orientation here. All right. So then we want to. There. Oops, look out. I'm throwing it at you now. Look out. And then here. And then, actually, let's go and get that inside corner so I don't have to go hunting for it. There. And then here. And then I need that long run there. And then, is that at the plate seam? Okay, good. That is at the plate seam. There. And there. And somehow, I didn't get enough of one of them. Which one did I need two of? Oh, I only got one. I needed two. Right there. Just wandering around. I see a familiar face. Hi. Dottie Morgan 339. What movies do you like? Oh, what an interesting question. Well, I don't know that I have any one movie that is my favorite necessarily. Most of the movies that I want to see over and over and over again, I do. I feel that way about them because they have some sort of emotional significance to me, or they have really good soundtracks. One of the two, and sometimes both. Sometimes both of those are true statements. As far as which one's my favorite, I don't necessarily know. The movie that my wife and I watched on our first date, of course, is always going to be significant to me. and which was Breakfast Club, and then Apollo 13, and of course Top Gun, because when you fly airplanes for a living, that's just like a thing. You guys know how that goes. I need two of these. One of these. Sports movies that, for whatever reason, maybe it's because I'm a history buff, but movies that are either inspired by or based on true stories, I always enjoy. Partly because I think because I can go back and check the historical accuracy, like, oh, that thing did in fact happen, or they took a lot of creative liberty, and there's not a thing in the world wrong with creative liberty. Not one thing wrong with creative liberty. It's necessary in the entertainment business. But I think it's important, especially if you're using history and historical fact as a basis for the story. The viewer should have the opportunity to go and research where those liberties may have occurred. And if you've ever seen like a historical fiction or something, you'll see that, like, inspired by, or like at the end of Remember the Titans, it sort of tells everybody's story, what they went on to do. This person went on to become a preacher. This person became a coach, et cetera, and what have you, as they say. So I am 68 years old. I've never seen Goodfellas or Donnie Brasco, and I've been therefore watched them both last night. I'd seen Goodfellas. The Donnie Brasco that I saw was the one on HBO. I don't know if that's the one Barb Twitcher referring or not. I did that. For some reason, did I just short myself a piece there? I must have. It's the only way it makes sense. I go there. And then I need a... No, I'm good. I'm right where I need to be. I'm right where I need to be. I'm right here. We're good right there. Okay. Do you like horror? Not necessarily. Do I like horror? Is the question? Not necessarily. I'm not. I mean, I know it has its place in culture, especially pop culture, but I'm not a fan. I know lots of people who are. My father-in-law, for example, huge movie buff. He'll watch any movie. He really likes sci-fi and fantasy. I don't find sci-fi or fantasy movies enjoyable, but he does, and that's okay. And my sister-in-law is also a big movie buff. My whole thing is this, and I just feel like there's a lot I could get done in the amount of time that it would take me to sit and watch a movie beginning to end. There's so much I could get done. And I know that's a flaw in the logic, because I'll sit and watch an athletic event on TV for 3 hours and not hardly move. And those athletic events are often longer than movies, especially when you have every Tom, Dick, and Harry performing at the halftime show, and whatever else. I'll be the first one to admit that I'll sit there for hours and not, I'll watch the whole competition beginning to end and not even blink, And so I'll admit the flaw in the logic there. But, we're only human, so. But my wife's a big now. When my wife says, "Hey, this is a movie I really want to watch. Let's go see it." I'm not going to tell her, "Yeah, of course, let's go see it." And I'll go see it with her, and I'll enjoy it. But if I'm picking the activity, I'm not picking watching a movie. What about a show? Yeah. Now, a 20 or 30-minute TV show, or even an hour-long TV show. Yeah, I'm good with that. In fact, my wife and I have a lot of shows that we watch. Not right now. We don't watch them as often as we want. We've got, young children, so they take up an inordinate amount of time. But also, she's finishing up her doctorate. So she does not have a ton of time available at the moment either. We have shows that we watch together. The Diplomat. She really likes like reality television, Big Brother, and that kind of stuff. And I'll be honest, I think it's stupid. But I joke with her. I tell her that. But here's the thing, and she's right. She likes it because you can watch it and you don't have to keep up with it. Sorry, I stepped away from the microphone. You can watch it and you don't have to keep up with the series. Like if there's something going on, if the kids start screaming, or we got to do a chore, or somebody calls, or she's got homework to do, whatever, she can just sort of run it in the background and keep up with enough of the storyline that when it comes back on the next week, it's no big deal. And if you've got a show with a really complicated storyline, or really, really complicated character development, it's hard to step away from the missing even a moment in the series, because there's probably going to be a subplot the next week about the 2 minutes that you missed. Of course, streaming has made that a little better because you can pause it and stuff, but still. And for most people, I'll be the first one to admit that's kind of a hot take. A lot of people don't like that idea. And I know it's a hot take, and that's okay. Just like I joke with my colleagues in the English department all the time. When I get students and they struggle with parts of speech or other, components of the English language that in theory they should have learned at a lower grade, but it doesn't necessarily mean they did. And it doesn't mean that they had a bad teacher. It just means that particular student didn't retain it. And sometimes that's okay too. I only half jokingly say that, we could teach parts of speech by using the F word, because it is the only word that I can think of. And I've got a pretty robust vocabulary, but it's really the only word that I can think of that fits universally anywhere in a sentence and is also correct at the same time. You can use it as a noun, you can use it as a verb, you can use it as an adverb, you can use it as an adjective, you can use it exclamatorily, you can use it interrogatorily. Like there's a lot that you can do with it. I guess I'd failed to get all the pieces before I started plugging stuff in. Watching a movie, when I'm watching a movie at home, it is simply an accompaniment to my life. Yeah, I on the other hand, I'll put on a podcast, or whether it's on YouTube and I'm listening to it without watching it, or even an album, like a music album. I'll just put it in, listen to it, and go about my day, go about my business, and just sort of hang out and chill and have a free concert in my head. Because I really am, at the end of the day, a big music guy. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean I'm any good at it. Like, there's a difference. I can like music and not have an enormous amount of talent to play it or make it. Hang on, I just got a text message from the wife. Stand by. Let me check this real quick for her. kids go to sleep, it's easier to talk to one another through text messaging, which I'm sure, as I say jokingly, is exactly what the inventors of text messaging wanted people to use it for. Yeah, that's right. And then this one goes here. I'm trying to keep it on the screen so you guys can see it. You guys didn't come to hang out with me just to not get to see the build. Samuel L. Jackson had a stutter, and it stopped every time he said MFer. That's one of those stories that, even though I don't know if that's true, I 100% believe it is, because one, why would somebody lie about that? And two, it kind of makes sense. Like, it kind of makes sense. It's the same thing with people who have Tourette's, right? There's certain things that they struggle with, and then there's certain things that are easy for them. And if you ever need a good laugh, you can watch the video of the Uber driver who picks up a guy with Tourette's, and so his tick goes off. They're called ticks. His tick goes off, and that triggers her tick, and then he yells, "Do you have Tourette's too?" She said, "Yeah," and they start giggling and laughing, and they just had a big time all the way to wherever they were going together. And it's one of those, that's a no judgment zone there, right? Because they both understood what the other one was going through. And so, when you say, I'm guessing I have to open the next bag, although it didn't tell me this. Because I also seem to have like a large number of leftover parts. I don't know. I'll have to look at it. I came back and added that. I did this. Wow, the colors on the screen are so different than what I'm just now looking up at the monitor. What you guys see up here is so different than what I have down here. It's so crazy. Green. I got 36 to 37. How many steps are there in total? 159, looks like 159 steps. So I'm guessing I then go and open the various parts of bag 2, or bag series 2, I guess. Just going to push these out of the way for now. Here's part of bag 2. Here's another bag 2. There it went. Yeah, there's lots of famous people that have had stutters over the years. As a very small child, I had a stutter, so they did some speech therapy as intervention for it. And there's, of course, different causes, but what they determined the cause of my stutter was, and for those of you who've known me more than 10 minutes, you'll realize this is not at all a shock to any of you, probably, was that my brain was actually processing faster than what my speaking abilities allowed me to communicate it out. Does that make sense, right? So I'd try to say something, or my brain would be processing something, and I would attempt to communicate that thing out. But I could not form the words as fast as my brain was trying to transmit them, and so I would get hung up. And I have a few memories, not a lot, but I have a few memories of, like, I kind of refer to as getting stuck in the cycle. Once you start stuttering, it's really hard to get out of it. So I'd have to force myself to stop, slow down, take a breath. And the breath was just to buy time. The slowing down was actually slowing down the thought process and not be in a hurry to get the idea out. Let the idea finish formulating and taking shape, and then we can communicate out the idea. What's a fun part about teaching? Well, it's a variety of things. One, I teach a really cool subject. All I teach is aviation. That's all I teach. I don't teach. I mean, I teach, and then there's some tangential stuff. Like there's aviation math, and I teach some math and aviation, but I'm not a math teacher. We do cover a lot of science. I'm not a science teacher. I have taught physics. I can. It's not my favorite thing in the world to teach, but I can teach physics. But right now, my schedule is too full to allow me to teach physics because I am first and foremost an aviation teacher. So I teach a really cool subject. But especially for things like aviation, there is so much fear in I'm scared to fly, I'm scared of this, I'm scared of that. And if you at the very base level, the fear comes from a lack of knowledge. They fear what they don't know, and that's perfectly normal. There's a reason we don't go running off into dark rooms or down unlit basement stairs in a place we're not familiar with, right? Like it's a survival instinct to, be scared of that you do not know, be scared of that which you do not understand. That's to a point a survival instinct, right? And so even if for my students who don't ever go out into industry, they don't ever want to fly airplanes or be involved in the aviation industry, if they can gain a little bit of education so they're not so scared, that's always a big deal to me, is that when they leave, even if they never want to be a pilot or an aircraft mechanic or an air traffic controller or fill in the blank aviation job, they just simply have more knowledge. And hopefully with that knowledge comes power, and with that power comes less fear. And I don't mean no fear, because there are times where we need to be scared, right? There are times when life is scary and isn't always pleasant. Yeah, I think Barb in her comment there hits it right on the head. Yeah, Barb, I think hits it right on the head. Right. I see real time change today, tomorrow, whenever. But then when you bump into that kid all those years later, whether it's 10 years or 10 minutes, when you see that child, that student, that former student outside the learning environment, they say, "Hey, what you taught me matters." And sometimes what you taught them, it may not have been how to conjugate a verb, or it may not have been how to calculate polynomials. But maybe you taught them something that saved their life, or got them out of a situation, or prevented them from getting into a situation. Because I try to tell my kids that are college bound, like, listen, you guys are going to go out in the world, and the world's going to beat you up a little bit. And that's okay. Like, you have to know the world's going to punch you right in the mouth a little bit, and that's okay. There's another bag of twos. Inevitably, it has to be okay. You have to let it be okay. You have to be willing to let life punch you in the mouth a little bit. Because it is from those ashes that we rise. Like, listen, you're going to go out, you're going to get out to college, and life's going to beat you up a little bit, and that's okay. And whether you go to college or not, from the ages of 18 to 25, life's just going to beat you up anyway, because being between the ages of 18 and 25 is hard just anyway. But if you can do it in the safety of the university setting, where you have this giant bubble of protection, but it's simply invisible to you. Stand by. It's invisible to you and you don't know it's there. That's all the better. Right? There are police and there are medical professionals through the campus infirmary or the student wellness center or whatever. There are therapists and there are advisors and there are faculty advisors and there are peer support groups and there are social groups. You have this giant safety bubble around you, but it's invisible for the most part, so you never see it, because we don't think you're not going to fall, that you're not going to fail, that you're not going to struggle, because we know you're going to fail, we know you're going to fall, we know you're going to struggle. So we make sure that we have resources in place to catch you when you fall. But we want you to learn how to use discretion. We want you to learn those decision-making skills. And if you know you have a giant safety net underneath you, you might be willing to make riskier decisions or make decisions you would not otherwise make. If you don't know those things are there, then you're learning to use discretion. You're learning how to use decision making and critical thinking, knowing you're going to get it wrong. You're going to make the wrong choice, and when that happens, we've got a giant safety net around you, but we just don't ever tell you it's there, if that makes sense. So when I talk to my college-bound students, I talk to their parents. I'm like, hey, especially if their parents didn't go to college, like, hey, let's, homeboy's gonna get out in the world, homegirl's gonna get out in the world, and they're gonna get punched around a little bit. And our instinct, my instinct as a parent, your instinct as a parent, is to jump in and save their butt, throw them a life ring. Don't. Let them flail a little bit. Like, let those campus resources do their job. Like, that student needs to recognize when they need help, so they know who to go ask to get it. If we come running in every time and bail them out, they're never going to learn. Or if they do, they're going to learn at a pace that makes us want to punch them in the face ourselves, right? And so, I try to have those conversations with my students and with their parents, like, we're going to get out in the world and it's going to be a little rough for you and you're going to be better for it. You had a student, when I was working in higher education, I had a student say one time they'd been through a rough patch, and I was their academic advisor, so they were coming in to get advice for classes, and they'd struggled with some classes in the fall or in the other semester or spring, fall, whatever it was, and hadn't done as well, and it had hurt their GPA, and they were at risk of losing some scholarship money, and just one of those life's tough moments. And the student said, well, I kind of regret it. And I said, no, you don't regret it. And you shouldn't regret it. He said, what do you mean? So, well, you shouldn't regret it. You shouldn't have regretted not going to that class, because your failure to go to that class resulted in an adverse grade, and you're going to learn from that. Like that morning where the bed is way too warm and the air is way too cold, or when you stayed up way too late and didn't get nearly enough sleep, and the temptation to silence the alarm and roll back over is going to be overwhelming. You're going to know, if I don't go to class, here's the bad thing that may happen. Right? And so you're going to use that bad decision you made before to allow you to make better decisions now, right? Because if you think of decision making, it's simply a database, right? Our database grows. It should grow. It has to grow necessarily. But the way our database grows, think about your own personal database, right? The contacts in your phone or in your email. That database grew because of an action that you had, a person you met, a conversation you had, whatever. Right? Had you not had that conversation, gone to that conference, done the thing that put that other person in your sphere of influence, then you would not have the ability to contact that person to support them, to ask them to support you, whatever the request or the relationship may be. So I tell people decision making is simply building a database of information that you use to decide which choice is the good choice and which choice is the ill-advised choice. And you now have a database from which against which to measure that decision, if that makes any sense at all. Chat's pretty quiet tonight. Maybe you guys are just here sort of listening to the musings of a madman right now, perhaps. This and this and this. Sometimes I think that's all you guys do, and I say that jokingly. I'm not remotely critical. Sometimes I think you guys just show up and listen to me talk to myself. And it's also possible some of my students are on here. I have reason to believe that they are from time to time here. And dear students, if you are here, as we discussed yesterday, make good choices. I tell my students when we go on a break, from school, fall break, Christmas break, summer break, when we looked at the weather and realized that there was a um, greater than probably chance that we would be out on Monday. I said, hey, don't forget the 4 big rules. Don't add to the population. Don't subtract from the population. Don't catch a charge. And if you do, assert dominance in the jail cell early. Ollie says, I'm enjoying the knolling. I know you're a Canuck. Give me the American version of knolling. I'm not familiar with that. I think that's a portmanteau, not a portmanteau, but it's but I think it's something specific in Canadian culture. So see if you can maybe find a synonym for it, something that I would be familiar with. And I'm also pretty tired, so that may be part of it too. Is that I have heard knolling, just not in this. Oh, sorting the pieces. Oh, okay, I follow you. It's like on this build in particular, I learned like in the last few minutes that you have to open all of the bag twos at once, which is not necessarily something you have to do in Lego. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. I think Mr. Knoll was an American, something to do with the space program. I thought, sorry if that's wrong, the Knolling. I'm trying to think. I'm familiar with most of the names in the space program, but I have to think you might be right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I can't think of it right now. You may be right. And actually, as soon as we're done on here, I'm going to go look and see. That is a very unique looking piece. I'm going to assume that is not right. I don't think that's it. That doesn't appear to match the description. I'm going to try and see if there's a specialty piece or something. Is that it? Maybe? I can't tell what that is. Had in-laws over. Lay backward is alien. It sure is. Steven, welcome back. Glad you're here, friend. This one's got me buffaloed. I'm not sure why. I got one more piece I gotta find. Found it. Nope. Is that it? Or is this it? Which it is it? It's this it. Okay. I'm not sure what that piece is. I'm assuming it means this piece. Except, do I have one that's cut the other direction though? There's a bunch of these. Maybe that's it. No, that's cut the same direction. That's cut the same direction. What did I miss? I forgot what the end picture is supposed to look like. Well, let's grab it and look at it. I drink the same brand of water. What is this? Go Kirkland? Yeah. I'm not sure where that came from. Knolling is arranging objects in an orderly fashion at right angles. So, not just sorting. Yeah, it's close. I'm still trying to figure out what the heck that piece is. That's what I don't know. Based on that, it sort of seems to cut the opposite direction. So, I'm going to see if we have this one that cuts the right way. That's one that looks like it cuts the right way. Okay, I do see it now. I didn't see it before, but I see it now. Knolling was coined in 1987 by Andrew Cromwell, a janitor at a shop fabricating chairs for Knoll Furniture Company. See, I learned something from you today. Looky there. We can all learn from each other. In my 36 years on the big spinny ball on which we find ourselves co-located, I've discovered that we often, and I guess in reality, I can't say that there's too many times where, if ever, to my knowledge, but I found that I don't understand the hatred. And I don't mean just the arbitrary, because we have so much more in common than we have different. And to say otherwise is just simply not true. To say otherwise is just simply not true. We have so much more in common than we have different. You can see my face. Oh, I guess you can see my face in the Legos, can't you? Well, there you go. We won't try to hide it for sure. I mean, most of them, most of my videos, my face is on here. It'd be weird to have my face on here during builds, but other than that, done that. Okay, now I need another one of those, but it's got to be that same cut. The angle's got to cut the right way. Here it is. Here's one. And then I need the outside ear. Is it an outside ear or an inside ear? I guess it's a 2x2 right ear. 2x2 right ear. And a 3x2 left ear. So let me find my left ear. Here it is. All right. 3x2, 2x2, and the hook. Yep. So we're going to go right back here, and we're going to put this one over here. I'll put this one right next to it. Oops, I'm off too far. There we go. One. Two. And this is going to open opposite. There we go. Killing is refurbishing chairs. Did not know that. Okay, then I need a 1x2, which oddly I can always find. You ever notice you can always find the pieces you don't need? But then when it comes to the piece you do need, you can't ever find it. Love it when that happens. One of my favorite things. Sorry, I'm tired, so my sarcasm doesn't jump off the page like it normally does. Now, where in the heck is this thing? Okay, so it's got to be over here. Looks like it's at the edge of this thing here. It's going to be flush to the second plate. Yep, that's it. Flush to the second plate. Straight down one, and then we're going to go in. Right there. There it went, just like that. So then I need one of these. And I need one of those. And I need, which way is the angle going to cut? No, I need the ones cut the angle cut to the inside. This one and this one. What's Megan's doctorate in? Megan's doctorate, well, it will be. She's finishing it. It will be a doctor of education in rural education. And her dissertation is in the recruitment and retention of recruitment of teachers and retention of emergency and alternatively certified teachers. Although I did have a deal the other day at work that sent me down a rabbit hole, and now I kind of want to write a law review article, but I also kind of don't want to have to do that much research to do it either. Oh boy, I think I got an error on this one. Here. But that's not the right spot. Her bachelor's degree is in, I think it's an elementary education, maybe. It's either elementary or early childhood. And then she's certified. So I think she's elementary ed. And she's also certified early childhood. And she also has her school counseling credentials. She has 2 master's degrees. She's school counseling certified. She's a school principal, and she's working on her doctorate, and will pick up her superintendent's credentials along the way. So I'm trying to dig a piece out there. I got to go back and figure out what I did wrong with it. Give me a second here. So I'm trying to dig a piece off. Stand by. My fingers are hurting. How does it differ if it's rural education? So, back in the day, super racist dude named Cubberley actually wrote about it, and while his work is racist, it's the concept that rural schools have different needs and and meet different demands than metropolitan and urban and even suburban schools. That part of it is true. Now, the rest, the super racist part, is inherently not true. But um, like the workforce that you're trying to prepare kids to go into, the job markets, but also like rural schools don't tend to have large employers in their communities. They tend to be single point, what we call what I refer to as a single point employer, meaning there's one or two very large employers. Um, but it's not like, a city where there's, hundreds of businesses to pick from, and then many large facilities, factories, warehouses, distribution centers, etc., often don't exist in rural communities. And so the educational needs of rural communities are different, as well as the resource allocation, the geographic limitations. There's lots of sort of moving parts and pieces in that analysis. Next question is, will you know if one of your students are asking you random questions? Well, maybe, maybe not, because I can only see on my end what screen name is. So if they have a screen name that would otherwise identify them, then perhaps. If they don't have a screen name that identifies them, then perhaps not. But also, I do read all of the comments, even if I don't bring them to screen or talk about them. I do read all of the comments. And that means a couple of things. I see what my students write on their papers. I hear how they talk to each other. I hear how they respond to my questions. So I can recognize speech patterns, word choice, spelling, etc. I also know which students are most likely to observe the content live, because they seem to think that teachers at school that our ears don't work, and they do. They also seem to think that teachers don't talk to our colleagues about things we observe in our students. If I know that I have a student and another teacher has that same student, that teacher and I will often get together and discuss if I'm having the same issues they're having, or if they're having the same issues I'm having, or have they had that student before, and do they know any tricks or tips to help get that student engaged or with the material, or any any number of other things. So there's sort of this weird concept that students have that teachers don't talk to one another, which is not inherently true. We talk to each other all the time. But then also, I know which of my students have bad grammar. And so, for example, and I don't know if you're a student, I have an idea of whether you are or are not, but you ask the question, will you know if one of your students are asking you a random question? Well, at least you stayed second person, and you stayed present tense, but you also switched singular plural. Are is a plural word, is a singular. So if one of your students, even though the word students ends in S, it is part of the prepositional phrase of your students. So you have to go back. I have to then go back to the modifier before that, which in this case is one student, so singular student. So it should read, will you know if one of your students is asking you random questions? So unless they say, hi, my name is, and I can tell with 100% accuracy, of course, at that point, whether that they're in the chat, indirectly or directly, it's hard to prove. Indirectly, yes. And there's a more than likely chance that you, in fact, are a student. I hope you're not, and and the reason why I hope you're not, it poses a question, or it poses a situation for me, and that's the direct communication with students. So I hope for your sake and my sake that you're not a student, but I could be wrong. No, that's not the right piece. There's need if I did a 5-holer. No, I actually notice it quite a bit. Barbara says, I'm glad I'm not the only one who notices it. Yeah, I actually notice it quite a bit. Not just among students, but just generally speaking. My late mother, may she rest in peace. She always told me she drilled it into my sister and I, proper grammar. I used to say, Mom, what's the big deal? Of course, I was young and stupid and shouldn't have asked that question, but I did. But I'm even though it was probably disrespectful to ask it. Looking back, I'm glad I asked the question because um, now I've learned to listen for it. But my mom always said it doesn't matter what happens to you in life. If you make a good choice or a bad choice, if you get lucky, if you get unlucky, it doesn't matter what happens to you. There's two things that nobody can ever take away from you unless you just allow them to by virtue of by psychologically allowing it. And that is people can't take away your dignity and people can't take away being well spoken and well read. They can revoke all your licenses, all of your certificates. They can put you in prison. They can, and often, or perhaps maybe you should go to prison for your acts, whatever. All of those things can be true, but they can't ever take away being well spoken and well read, right? And the thing is, to be well spoken and well read, it doesn't take any skill. It doesn't take one nickel of money. All it simply takes is effort. That's it. You just have to decide one day, I want to have good grammar. Like that's it. You just have to make the choice. I want to learn to speak correctly. And data tells us that people who use good grammar can get better prices on cars. They can get better prices on houses. If not that I'm a big fan of it, but if one had to go to the bank and try to borrow money, maybe to buy a car or a house, you can get better terms. You're more likely to get approved. You go in and interview for a job, and you're well spoken. You sound educated. You sound literate. You represent yourself well. You speak well, because when you interview for a job, you're asking that employer to trust you with their business, and more importantly, to trust you with their clients, their customers, the people who come in seeking goods and services from that business. And being well read and well spoken is super critical. Like I don't want somebody speaking on my behalf, answering my phones or talking to people with whom I may choose to do business if they don't sound like they can carry a conversation. You may be incredibly brilliant, but if you don't have good grammar, it's hard to impress someone on a date. It's hard to negotiate the business deal, whatever, and they can't ever take it away from you. It's a choice that you make to be good at it. Elephant says that's funny because I'm not a student, I'm old, but I have kids and I learned to text the way they do to communicate with them that way. No caps, no punctuation. Well, that's part of it. But also, there's a law now in Oklahoma where teachers, and There are a few unintended consequences, but I agree with the premise. I'll say that up front. Um, in Oklahoma, teachers are not allowed to have direct communication with students outside of the classroom, except in limited, like using approved communication means. So, using a school email account, using our learning management system, whether that's Canvas or Infinite Campus or Power School or any of those products. Okay. Because what they're trying to do, and understandably, and fortunately or unfortunately, necessarily, they need to do it as well. It allows them to see the correspondence teachers are having with students, to make sure that teachers are behaving themselves. They're not having inappropriate conversations with students. Um, in case of an emergency, I can call a student or text a student directly, only in case of emergency. And then but as soon as but then I also have an obligation to inform the parent and disclose the communication to the parent within, like, as soon as is reasonably practical. I forget exactly what the legal standard legislature said, like if it's immediately or as soon as possible or as soon as practical or whatever. I mean, each of those has a unique legal standard, but and so, like, my particular school district, we use a software or a texting program called Remind. Okay, and so it's managed by the school. I can create different groups. So, my students who compete in certain events have a group, and my ambassadors have a group, and whatever, have these different groups. There's one for band and whatever, right? So you have these different groups, and so I can text them through that, and it sits on the school server. The school can see it, the school can supervise it, the school can monitor it, and if there's ever an accusation or a complaint made, they can go and pull those records. And so it does twofold. It protects the students, and it should. Students are a vulnerable population. But it also protects teachers, because not everybody out there, is saying truthful things. And so I can say, no, that conversation did not occur. And they can go back and they can pull the Remind records, and sure enough, that conversation did not occur. Right? But likewise, the student can't say, I did not. I can say, well, go back and look at your Remind message, look at your learning management system, look at your email. I mean, I tell my students all the time, I'm going to email you, because I probably will forget to announce something in class one day. So I'm going to email you. You, as the student, are responsible for keeping up with your email address. If you miss an opportunity to go on a trip, if you miss an opportunity to take on a leadership role, if you miss an opportunity to, attend the basket weaving class, whatever, that's not a me problem. That's a you problem, because I emailed you, or I sent you a Remind message, or I sent you a message through the learning management system. And so I say all that because if a student were to jump on the chat, I don't actually know what protocol would be. So that's actually a conversation that I need to have with my leadership and my administration to find out exactly what that looks like. Oh, elephant for sure. I mean, let's see. Barb Sylvie says, we are grown up. We are the grown ups. It is unfortunate that we cannot be trusted to draw boundaries, but history has been sad on this particular point. Perhaps they could trust us, in addition, hire better teachers. Possibly, but I also know that that's a very complex issue, and at least where I live, there is a huge shortage of teachers. I can remember, and I need to get her back on the channel and have her tell this story sometime. But when Megan got her first teaching job, wrong spot. When Megan got her first teaching job, she had actually interviewed for that job several times. Well, in that district several times. She'd interviewed across Oklahoma for a variety of jobs. She had gotten one job offer and turned it down because it was just too far away. I think we were engaged. If not, if we weren't engaged, we were nearly engaged. But I think we were engaged. But it was a long time ago. I don't remember. Anyway, she had interviewed for jobs. She had turned down one job in far western Oklahoma because it was like 7 hours from her sphere of influence. And here she is, going to be a first-year teacher in the middle of nowhere. And if something happens, then I got to drive across the state to get to her and help her. And so she'd interviewed a whole bunch of different places and hadn't gotten a call back or a job offer. And so she was trying to figure out what to do. And she was, I think, at that point, considering going back to it, that she was living back at her mom and dad's because, school, she had graduated in May. So school was out and she'd gone back home for the summer. And then it's like early mid-August at this point. She gets a call from a school in Norman, Oklahoma. And says, hey, we'd like to, she'd already interviewed. I drove her to an interview. She'd interviewed 5 or 6 times, I think, at that point with Norman. And she got a call one day, said, hey, this is so-and-so at this elementary in Norman. Are you available to come do an interview? Megan's like, yeah, sure, of course. When would you like me there? And she said, well, when can you be here? Well, if you don't know Oklahoma geography, Norman is part of the Oklahoma City metropolitan statistical area. It's located in southern, or just in like sort of southern, so South Oklahoma City in Cleveland County. It's the county seat of Cleveland County. And the principal is like, well, when can you get here? And Megan's like, I don't know, probably 3 hours, 3.5 hours. She's like, okay, this is mid-morning. So Megan throws some clothes in a bag and grabs an interview suit and takes off. And, my dad had some real estate at the time in the Oklahoma City area, so she had a place to stay. If push came to shove, because that's a lot of driving. So she calls and says, hey, I'm leaving now. I've got an interview in Norman. I said, well, that's awesome. Let me know how it goes. So she calls me and she says, hey, they offered me the job. I said, awesome. She said, I'm going to take it. I said, good. And I said, what's your first job activity? And she said, well, it's Meet the Teacher night. I have to be here for Meet the Teacher. I said, okay. When is that? Without missing a beat, she says, it's tonight at 7 o'clock. And this is at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was like, oh, okay. So she taught her first week, maybe longer, of school with no decorations up, no theme to her classroom, nothing, as a kindergarten teacher. And fortunately, she had a great co-teacher. I think there were only 2 kindergarten teachers in that building back then. She had a great co-teacher that was an awesome resource for her, that she's still friends with to this day. And, now, so she'd interviewed, several times. And now they can't hardly find enough teachers. They're not producing enough traditionally trained teachers out of the teacher prep system. They're not, and then those more and more teachers are entering education and then leaving education. So they train to be teachers. They get out in it. They don't like it. And they leave. And so now it's really, they have more jobs than they can often fill. She had one of the teachers in her building left at Christmas because her family's business was demanding more time, and so it was in the best interest of her family that she leave the classroom and go work in the family business. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? You always wish your employees the very best, and if there's something that their life requires of them, then you support that. But let's see. Play marble at the fact that I managed to not get fired in 38 years because I did all the things you're not supposed to do. I hired kids to mow my yard. I help the kids as they need them. I had all their cell phone numbers, so there would be at least one person available to come to the hospital and they drank too much or took, whatever. Yeah, for sure. That's those are all fair points. And I hire. We have a fleet. I refer to them as my fleet of babysitters. Um, we live in a college town, so we have a fleet of babysitters. We have several that are college students. We have several that are high school students. The college students, they're grown. I think most of them, if not all of them, can can legally go buy beer. I think go to a bar. So I think most, if not all of them, are 20 or 21, something like that. And and I've got and I don't have to, I just text them directly. But with my high school babysitters, I actually have a group chat with the babysitter, the babysitter's mother, and me. And I do not text the student without mom or dad on the chat. And so I just have a standing group chat with that babysitter's mother. And if mom wanted dad to be on the chat, I'd put dad on the chat too. That's just not been a question that's been asked, but I'm certainly not opposed to that. And if you look at the chat history, it all reads the same. Hey, I've got availability. I'm hiring babysitters for the coming X amount of days. Here's the availability. Do you want any of these? Because you should never have one babysitter. You can always have 50 because, one, it doesn't cost you anything to have a bunch of them. It only costs you something when you have to hire them. But also, kids are as busy now as they ever have been. So if I got a kid who plays a spring sport and a fall sport, well, I can only have them in the winter. And if I've got a kid who is in the band, they're going to be hooked up most of the year. But they tend to be a little more open in the summer, right? So you accumulate enough people that no matter what happens, you get coverage, right? And then I also have some, our house can be a little, it can be a little hectic from time to time. And so I've got some babysitters who thrive in chaos. They live in a house full of chaos with kids running, screaming everywhere. And then I've got some that didn't come from chaos and they do much better in quieter environments. And so I have a gamut of them. You find good ones, you build relationships with them. I think we're going to finish. I'm going to finish this page. So just a few pieces. Let me see. How much build on do I have to do to this? We're going to go until I mount this piece right here that I've been building up, and then we'll call it a night. It's getting late. I'm getting tired. I'm getting old. I can't. As I tell my wife when she's pulling all-nighters, I can't keep up with you young people anymore. Okay, so I need a 1x1. And I need a, whatever these things are called. Because these aren't quite Lego, they're very similar to Lego. I don't know what names the manufacturers use, and Lego doesn't have that exact piece. They got something very similar, but they don't have that exact piece. Where these guys have built it as a single molded piece, Lego would actually use 2 pieces or 3 pieces, but you could get the same effect. Lego just does it a little differently. And then I need 2 1x2s. Oh, and then one of these. Let's go ahead and grab it while I'm in there. I'll have to come back and find it later. And then 2 1x2s. There's one, and there's one. Right there. Groovy, brother. So then I take this, and I'm going to put one of these on top of it. Right, yep. And then I'm going to put this on top of that. And then I'm going to put this on there. Maybe. I will say these smaller blocks sometimes are a little harder to squeeze than Lego. And squeezing this thing is key to get these pieces sealed up nice and tight. Allie, thanks for hanging out. This will take me more than just tonight. So I've only got about maybe 3 or 4 minutes left on this stream, then I'm going to shut it down. Thanks for coming out. Come hang out with us anytime. I appreciate you being here, hanging out with us tonight. Barb says, my favorite thing about teaching, I can't put a notice on Facebook and say, hey, I've pulled into my house. Who wants to make $15 an hour to help me pack? Oh, I can. I can pull a notice. Okay, so I already have one of those. And then I need a 1x1 flush. There's one right there. A 1x1 flush. And I need a 1x1 corner curve right there. Sweet. So then I'm going to take this. This is going to go here. This is going to go here. This piece goes here. Okay, so we're almost done. I'm getting ready to hang this piece in just a second here. Then I need a 2x2 plate. I hate it when they're upside down because they always feel like plates. They look like plates and you pick them up and they're very not. That's not one. That's not one. That's not one. That's one right there. Nope. See? Same problem. How about this one? Nope. I need a 1x1 smooth plate's what I need. Or no, sorry, 2x2 smooth plate. It's going to look like this, but it's going to be 2x2. That's a 1x3. What's if anybody sees it, just yell it out. But I guess you can. I'm not going to be able to hear you though. So sort of a 6 of one, half dozen of the other sort of thing, I guess. That it? There it is. Good. And then I need the inside hook. And then I need that weird, whatever that little bear claw foot thing is. Good night, Allie. Thanks for hanging out with us, friend. Oh, Lord. Why can't I find that piece? Is that one? Is that one? B1? That is one. Well done, sir. Thank you for those words. So we're gonna pin that right there. We're gonna pin this right here. And to be honest, about an hour. Oh, we've been going almost 2 hours. Because these are so much smaller than Lego, these actually cause my hands to start hurting a lot earlier than they normally do with Lego. And then I need one of these right here. We're almost done, guys. And 2 1x2s. One, two. Yeah, it's like I said, it's elephant. I certainly don't have an issue with the rule. I think the rule is well intentioned. There are some unintended consequences of the rule, but good or bad, that's going to be inevitable anywhere lawmakers are involved. And not that lawmakers are a bad thing. Like we are a nation of laws. We need those people to make those decisions. But that's one of those decisions that has an economic cost to it. If you follow me, right? Like that decision does not come free. The school has to identify resources. Where is that piece? Why can't I find that piece? Yeah. The school has to find a product that they then have to pay for. Because what happens is if you tell teachers, hey, you can't directly talk to your students anymore, the teachers say, well, that's really easy. Then you need to find us a way that we can talk to them in an approved method. And if the school says we're going to pay for it, and you say, cool, we're not going to do the thing. I'm not going to put together any trips. I'm not going to take my kids anywhere because they don't want the logistical nightmare trying to figure all that out. All right, here we go. So that's where we are tonight. Slide that forward a little bit. That's where we are. We added this, we added this, we added this. We added all this down here, built all this up. And if you look at it from the side here, again, it's not actually that curved. I'm looking right at it. It's just the weird distortion of the camera lens. But, oh, yeah, see, like right there, I didn't know that piece wasn't sealed. What I do now? So I can work on it. Listen, appreciate everybody being here. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you know every time we go live. Mark my directions, show where I left off. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you know every time we go live. Hit that bell notification subscribe to the channel. Like this video. Let me do this in the right order. Sorry. Let's go back in time 30 seconds. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification so you're notified every time we go live. There are lots of ways to support the channel. I've never asked. It is not required that you spend a nickel on the channel, but if you choose to support me, support the work we do here, there are certainly lots of opportunities to do that. That information can be found on the landing page of the channel, on the bio of the channel. We have the Amazon list. We have Patreon. We have Buy Me a Coffee. We have channel memberships and subscriptions. We also have the merch store. So just in case you have a hanker and you can get a shirt, it's got my pretty little face on it, or you can get a shirt that says it's kind of the motto around here. I know you have a lot of choices when it comes to hanging out, especially on cold weather, and the fact that you choose to spend a few precious moments of your time with me means more to me than I could ever thank you guys for. So that's it for now. We'll probably do another one tomorrow. Depends on if I have to go back to work on Monday or not, but at the very least, we'll try to throw one up tomorrow night if we can. In the meantime, do me a favor. Be kind to someone. We'll talk to you guys real soon.